Hi everyone, welcome to week 2. We are gonna do some landscaping. Okay, so today we are going to work on the mountains and the text, and then tomorrow we will do the deer and Santa's sleigh. So depending on what you're doing, you might just need to be here for half of it, or you might need to be here for all of it. I thought I'd split it up that way instead of doing both of the sky options on the same day. So let's do our mountains first, and then if you are doing lettering, you can stick around for that. And if not, then you can tune in tomorrow. So we are going to use the black 310 all day. All right. So let's get started. Happy Monday to you, Lisa. Okay, so I'm going to use 4 strands for the mountains. Okay. Let me get my needle threaded. What is that? Okay. So for the mountains, we're just gonna do some straight stitches. It's nothing fancy. So I'm just gonna follow what I have drawn and just do stitches from one point to the next. I'm using, I think I already said it, but I'm using 4 strands. I'm gonna go first and just do all the mountain peaks, and then I'm gonna decide if I want to go back and do like some extra. Let me get out my, like this one I did like some little extra, but I'm just gonna outline it first and then decide if I want to go back and do that. So I'm just going from point to point, working that way. I'm gonna try and have as little like traveling thread as possible. So I'm just gonna leave this loop kind of open so I can come up in the middle of it to move on to the next peak. So super simple today. If you wanted to practice doing like a stem stitch or something like that, you could. I have a knot back here, hold on. I'm just gonna keep it simple because I don't want this to be like the highlight of the hoop. I just want it to be really in the background, just a basic outline. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I could just go straight down, but I really don't like that, a trailing thread right there. Since we have 2 layers, it's unlikely to show, but just in case, I'm gonna go behind my fabric. This is where I want to come up. So what I'm gonna do is just weave through this one to kind of keep my thread where I already have stitches. And then I can come up right here so I don't have thread traveling all over the place. Is that 4 strands of the black 310? Yes. Yes, 4 strands. You could also do 3 if you think that 4 is a little too thick for you. This is, I mean, it's pretty dark, so if you wanted to do 3, you totally can, or 2 even. I feel like my light is so bright. Okay. I think I'm just gonna leave this one without the lines. I'm gonna loop this one down here. Sorry, I'm moving around a lot today. Back. Oops. Move that little piece out of the way. So if you're gonna do peaks, or if you're gonna do extra lines, maybe plan on doing it while you're doing the mountains, because now like I would have to like cut my thread and go back. I don't know, I kind of like it simple. What do you think? Do we like it simple like this, or do we like the lines? Should I do lines on this second one? I can't decide. But you would just stitch them the same that you have been and just go back in and just do some lines. Two or 3, and I would just use that same hole that's at the top of your peak. Whoop. Like that. However many you want on each one. I'm gonna leave this one just plain like that. Okay. So I am going to move on to lettering. I know today is a really quiet day for those that are not doing lettering. Enjoy your break. What if you scattered them? Yeah, you totally could. I am going to keep mine super simple, but if you want to do just like scattered lines, you can. I would just be cautious of trailing threads, unless that's not going to bug you. I know it doesn't bug some people. So, whatever you want to do with that, I am gonna cheer you on. I'm keeping mine simple. Okay, let me reposition my hoop a little bit so that the Merry Christmas isn't so close to my hoop stand, because that will make it difficult to stitch. Okay, I'm gonna bring my hoop stand this way. I didn't loosen this enough, hold on. Okay. Get in there. This one is not loose enough either. Goodness. I am falling apart over here. Okay. So for the lettering, we are going to do a reverse chain stitch. So we already did chain stitch when we did our roofs. This one looks very, very, very similar. It's just a little different. I mean, how you do it is different. Like you do it backwards, which is why it's called a reverse. Okay. We're still a little crooked. There. Okay. So I'm going to work on the Mary on screen, and then I will leave you to it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use 2 strands of the black 310. These are teeny tiny letters, little tiny curves. We want to make sure that we can get all the curves in there. So we're gonna do little tiny stitches with a tiny amount of thread. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to tie a knot in my thread here. When I'm only using 2 strands, I nearly always double or triple knot just because I don't want it to come out. Okay, so I have my little knot. Okay, so we're gonna start on the end. Okay, so when we did a chain stitch, we started at the end right here and worked our way around. So what we're gonna do with a reverse chain stitch is start a stitch length up and go backwards. We're doing a reverse chain stitch. So I'm gonna start here and go up and down in that same hole. And remember, when we ended our chain stitch before, we just tacked it down like we did our, oh, that stitch is gonna be too long, I think. We tacked it down like a detached chain stitch. That's how we ended it. So that's how we're gonna start a reverse chain stitch, is just do a detached chain stitch right at the first, and then we're gonna start working backwards. So we're gonna go forward a stitch length, and then we're gonna weave under this. So I'm under the 2 pieces of thread, the 2 loops, and then go back down in that same hole. Okay, and then we're just gonna keep that. We're gonna go a stitch length away. We're gonna weave through just that last stitch that we made. These are itty bitty curves, so itty bitty stitches. especially when we start to go around these curves right here. Teeny tiny stitches. So I actually prefer a reverse chain stitch over a regular chain stitch. I'm gonna go this way through this one. I can get mine looking a lot more uniformed with a reverse chain stitch than a regular chain stitch. But when you're doing them right next to each other, or if you have other stitches around it, I find it's a little bit more difficult because you're weaving and you don't want to snag other stitches around it. So I really like reverse chain stitch, but it does have kind of its limitations on what you're doing with it. So this is actually a little thick. You could probably do this with a single strand. I might undo this and redo it with one. I thought two would be good, but starting to wonder now if I should not have done two because it is really thick. I'm gonna finish the M and then I'll decide. Okay, so then when you get to the bottom of a letter, then we just go down in that same hole, and that's the end. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna start. So I'm gonna start this part of the M. So I'm gonna go a stitch length away. It's black, so it's super, oh man, I think I pulled in, yep. I pulled in my fabric from the back. Black is super forgiving, so if your stitches are not perfect, it's totally fine because the black really hides a lot of flaws. Okay, so I'm gonna go a stitch length away, and then I'm just gonna weave through one of these stitches here. And then go back down here. Now, if you cannot see yourself doing all of these letters this way, another option would be to do a split stitch. So instead of filling the space like we did on the church, you would just do it in a line and you would just split the stitch on every, you would just stay on your line and just split your stitch as you work through your text. A split stitch gives a really similar look on lettering as chain stitch does, or reverse chain stitch. But it might be just a little bit faster. Especially once we get into like the M and the R, or I mean the E and the R. Now, if you were doing this with a different color than black, I would just make another chain right here. Like just start another one. What do we think? Does it need to be a single strand? As I'm nearing the end, I'm starting to think it might. I like to kind of finish a letter and then make a decision. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let me zoom back out. Woo! It's pretty thick. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is leave this for now. I'm gonna do the C with a single strand and see if I like that better. So that I decide I do like 2 strands, that I don't have to redo the M a 3rd time. So I'm gonna tie this off. And do a single strand on the C. Sometimes you have to experiment. Okay. Since I have a single strand, I'm definitely going to tie a few knots in this. So what I do is I usually just tie the first one wherever. And then when I'm doing a second, I like to hold on to it so it kind of stays where I need it to. And then I slowly pull my knot so that they knot on top of each other. It's a little slow, but then we've got a bigger knot to hold that single little thread. Okay, so let's do this C with a single strand and see if we like that better. I so rarely work with one strand that it feels strange. Okay, so like we did before, we start 1 stitch length up so that we can tack down that first one, and then we'll start our next chain. I already can tell I'm gonna like this better. Now, one thing is make sure you're not pulling each of these too tight. You want to be able to kind of still see that loop, like that's the fun of chain stitch. What do I think? The single strand better? I'm a fan of the single strand right now. Lisa's loving the single strand. My husband's coming home. Whoops. Pulled that a little too tight. Okay. I'm gonna finish this C, and then I will take a picture and post it to my story so that you can see them a little bit more clearly, like side by side. And then you can decide what you want to do. I think I'll take out the M. I think I prefer this single strand. I feel like when I work with a single strand, it falls out of my needle a lot more easily, which bothers me. But here we are. Okay, just gonna do a couple more of these. And then we'll call it a day. Whoops, I keep grabbing some of the fabric. This is a slow stitch. You don't want to grab the thread that you're working with. You don't want to grab threads around it. You don't want to grab the fabric. It's okay to move really slowly. Okay. So I'm gonna leave that there. I'll take a picture so you can see it in the stories, but I'm gonna take this out and redo it because I think this is better. Sorry I led you astray in the beginning. Okay, friends, that is it for me today. So I will be back tomorrow at 1, and I can't wait to see your lettering. Okay, have a good afternoon. See you later. Bye.